Hello, Mrs. Hokinson.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, as part of our school's weekly news program, we wanted to talk a little bit about some great books and about a particular historical event. For my first question, I guess I just wanted to ask, what was the historical event that you wanted to talk about?
Okay, so the historical event that I'd like to talk about is the Underground Railroad. And so basically, that was around the Civil War era. There were lots of African American slaves in the United States. And at that time, there were free states and enslaved states in the South. And the slaves were treated horribly and they wanted to become free. And so Harriet Tubman, that's the main person that we'll be talking about, was an conductor, and even more than that, she was an abductor. She was the person that went to the South and grabbed the people and took everyone that wanted to become free and led them with the conductors, which are the people that helped them navigate where to go through the Underground Railroad. And then they met along a lot of station masters for different areas to help them either hide or pass along new information where to go. And yeah, so Harriet Tubman saved so many people.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I can see here that you have a lot of books with you about this event, particularly about Harriet Tubman and others. Can you just tell us a little bit about these books?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's this one right here. So this one is a graphic novel, and it kind of looks like a comic book. So it's really interesting, and it's a chapter book as well. So if you're not as interested in chapter books quite yet, this one is so good because it's full of pictures, and there's commentary. There's these two people there's a line of books if you like other historical books. They talk about a bunch of different things, but in this case it's about Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. So they always start off together, and then this guy who's about to get hanged tells them something about America. In this case, it's about Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. So I like that one a lot. That one's probably my favorite. This one's more of a chapter book. This one is a nonfiction book as well. So this one is really great. Has lots of great information that's accurate. And then it also has pictures that are all sketches, and they're all black and white. So it's a good one that still has pictures, but it's still more of a chapter book, so a little bit more advanced. This one, I love. The artwork is beautiful in this one. It actually earned a Caldecott Award, and so Caldecott Awards are for illustrations. And if you look at this book, you can see, let me find a good picture, but they're all great, so what am I saying? One, for example, would be this, and it's just such beautiful artwork. And so this book is great, and there's not a lot of words. There's mostly conversation between Harriet Tubman and God, because she was super religious. And so it's just a beautiful story. That one's a picture book, and yeah, I like that one a lot. And then there's also another graphic novel, this one's also similar to a comic book. And so there's great illustrations here again, and commentary, so it's a little bit smaller. And yeah, so not as much text, but still very good. Yeah, so
Wow.
Those are some of the books.
Wow. So you already mentioned it a little bit, but I was just wondering, why was this book your favorite?
That one is just so interesting. It's so unique because there is the storyline, and instead of it saying, with a normal author and narrator just telling this story, there's characters that are telling this story, the three characters at the beginning for all of those books, and then also there are actual characters within the book, like Harriet Tubman and her family and the people that are involved in the story. They're all in there, and they all have lines, and so that's a little bit different. And there's still so much, and it talks about the story in more depth. And spoiler alert, there's not actually an underground railroad. There's not a train that rides underground. It's just paths that are secretive and very, very cool.
Wow. Wow. So, one of these books was historical fiction. Can you tell us about the basic storyline? Was that this book or is that different?
No, I didn't actually get historical fiction books, so I would like to have one, but I guess the picture book would be most like a historical fiction book, because there is in all of these books there's historical parts of it involved, some more than others, and so this one there's a little bit more of interpretation and more of a more freedom in the storytelling, I think. So I think that would make it more like a historical fiction.
So going along with that, do you think that the author did a good job then of portraying the way it really was at that time? And why or why not?
I definitely do. This one, it definitely talks about like the heartache of this one's all about the first time that Harriet left the slave state that she was in Maryland and went to Pennsylvania, a free state. And so it talks about how hard of a journey it was, and it adds so much detail with such little text, with a combination of the artwork as well. So it's really good. So yeah, I think it definitely does.
So obviously you've already kind of mentioned that if you had to get another book that you don't have right now, it'd be a historical fiction.
Yeah, I would definitely get a historical fiction book. It's just kind of tough to find one that is so good, and these books are also good, so it's kind of hard to find one that would compare with those four.
So books can kind of be a challenge sometimes for kids especially to want to read, but why do you think, as a teacher, that it's so important for kids to read books like these?
Historical books?
Yeah.
Well, I think that reading history is way more interesting than just reading the facts about it without the storyline. Having the story and having the pictures makes you understand it better, and it's more enjoyable, I think. And some people prefer reading things that are true, and so that's right with this, and so that's also really good as well.
Awesome. So my last question for you then would be, what advice would you give to students about selecting a good book about history, especially since you talked about how historical fiction, they can kind of do their own interpretation?
Yeah, I think the main thing would be to choose something that you're interested in, whether that be a certain period of history or a certain person or something like that, and also to choose a style that you like. Like if you prefer something with illustration, maybe choose a chapter book more like this where there's still illustration, or if you're not quite ready for all of that text but you still like the storyline, this one's a great option because there's still a lot of text and there's still chapters and everything like that, but it's broken down, so it's not just a ton of words on a page if you're not quite ready for that. Or if you enjoy comics like this one and the other one that I mentioned, they're both great and they're very similar to comics.
Great. Well, thank you so much for meeting with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Look forward to hearing more about these books in the future.
Awesome.